Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good afternoon. Welcome to the press conference of the State Council Information Office. Today we are very glad to have Vice Minister Guo Tingting of Commerce to brief us about commerce work and operation in the first half of 2023 and take some questions. And today we also have Mr. Yang Tao, Director General of Comprehensive Affairs, Mr. Xu Xingfeng, Director General of Market Operation and Building, Mr. Li Xingqian, Director General of Foreign Trade, and Mr. Zhu Bing, Director General of Foreign Investment Administration. I'd like to invite Vice Minister Guo to give us a briefing. Friends from the media, good afternoon. Let me begin by expressing thanks for your interest in and support for China's commerce work over the years. Today, I'd like to brief you on China's commerce development in the first half of 2023. This year, under the strong leadership of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China, with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, the Ministry of Commerce fully implemented the guiding principles of the 20th CPC National Congress, pressed ahead with commerce work in all areas, and introduced policies and measures in a timely fashion. As a result, we saw overall recovery of commercial activities and steady progress in high-quality development of commerce in the first 6 months. First, domestic consumption picked up swiftly. MOFCOM launched a year of consumption revitalization thematic activities and introduced policies and measures to boost home spending in order to reinvigorate and expand consumption. In the first 6 months, retail sales of consumer group products totaled 22.8 trillion yuan, up by 8.2% year-on-year. In-person consumption rebounded strongly, with catering sales increasing by 21.4% over the same period last year. Consumption of middle and high-end goods showed strong growth. New energy vehicle sales surged by 44%, and the sales of gold, silver, and jewelry and sports and entertainment equipment at businesses larger than a designated size grew by 17.5% and 10.5%. Online shopping expanded rapidly, with online retail sales rose by 10.8% to account for 26.6% of total retail sales. Second, external trade kept growing. In the face of weak global demand and other challenges, MOFCOM earnestly implemented the guidelines on stabilizing the size and optimizing the mix of foreign trade, and helped businesses explore new markets and secure orders. From January to June, trading goods increased by 2.1% to 20.1 trillion yuan, where export grew by 3.7% and the trade surplus expanded by 17.4% to 2.8 trillion yuan. At the end of June, foreign exchange reserves stood at 3.19 trillion yuan. In the first quarter, China's export accounted for 14% of the global market, 3 percentage points higher than last year. In terms of trade mix, China's trade with the emerging markets outperformed that with the US and the EU. In the first half of this year, China's trade with ASEAN, Latin America, and Africa increased by 5.4%, 7%, and 10.5% respectively, whereas trade with the EU went up by 1.9% and with the US down by 8.4%. Private businesses show strong resilience, whose import and export volume expanded by 8.9%, and their share in China's total trade reached 52.7%, representing an increase of 3.3 percentage points. Exports of electric vehicles, photovoltaic products, and lithium-ion batteries became new drivers, with a robust growth of 60.6%. Export of electric and mechanical products grew by 6.3%. Trading services grew rapidly. From January to May, services trade totaled 2.6 trillion yuan, up by 10%, of which tourism import and export skyrocketed by 67%. Third, inflow of FDI remained stable. This year, we initiated a series of Invest in China Year events to attract and utilize foreign investment. The number of new foreign invested enterprises grew fast, with 24,000 newly incorporated ones in the first half, a year-on-year increase of 35%. Paying FDI reached 703 trillion yuan, down by 2.7%. FDI from developed countries continued to grow, with investments from France, the UK, Japan, and Germany up by 173%, 135%, 53%, and 14% respectively. High-quality FDI kept flowing in. Investment in high-tech sectors increased by nearly 8%, with its share in total investment expanded by 3.9 percentage points to 39.4%. In particular, high-tech manufacturing attracted attracted nearly 29% more investment over the same period last year. Pilot free trade zones play a remarkable role in driving investment. As pace setters of opening up, the 21 pilot FTZs attracted a total FDI of 129 billion yuan, up by 8.2% and accounting for 18.4% of the national total. Fourth, foreign direct cooperation moved forward steadily. We continue to improve and upgrade foreign direct cooperation, investment cooperation, and promote high-quality development of the BRI. Foreign investment grew rapidly, with non-financial foreign direct investment reaching 431 billion yuan in the first half of this year, an increase of 22.7%. Cooperation in new fields such as green, digital, and blue economy continues expanded. Since the beginning of this year, new MOUs have been signed with Brazil and 3 other countries, and a total of 41 countries have carried out cooperation in related fields. In the first half of this year, turnover of attracting projects overseas reached 490 billion yuan, an increase of 7%. A number of key projects made steady progress in construction and cooperation. Fifth, multilateral and bilateral cooperation further deepened. We continuously expanded the global network of high-standard FTAs, promoted the full entry into force of RCEP, comprehensively carried out negotiations such as China-ASEAN FTA version 3.0, held ministerial meetings between China and DELPA members, and they worked for China's accession to the CPTPP. China signed an FTA with Ecuador, substantially completed follow-up negotiations on the upgrading of the FTA with Singapore, and brought the early harvest of the FTA with Nicaragua into effect. We are committed to the multilateral trading system by actively participating in WTO reform, leading the successful conclusion of negotiations on the text of the Investment Facilitation Agreement, completed domestic ratification of the agreement on fishery subsidies, and putting forward 14 proposals in trade and environment. We further deepen bilateral economic and trade cooperation through the 5th meeting of the Sino-French Business Council, the Sino-German Entrepreneurs Roundtable, the first China Central Asia meeting of the Ministers of Economy and Trade, the China-Africa Economic and Trade Expo, the China Central and Eastern European Countries Expo. In the next step, MOFCOM will adhere to the guidance of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, and conscientiously implemented decisions and plans of the Party Central Committee and the State Council. Based on the 3 important roles of commerce work, we will make all-out efforts to stabilize foreign investment and foreign trade, promote consumption, and provide strong support for sustained recovery of the Chinese economy. Next, my colleagues and I would like to take your questions. Thank you. Thank you, Vice Minister Guo. Now the floor is open, so please identify yourself before taking questions, asking questions. Thank you. Thank you. From CGTN. Recently, the State Council Executive Meeting stressed that policy measures with the right conditions should be introduced timely. At the same time, we should also prepare more measures in our toolbox and to play out their comprehensive effect. So what measures can we expect to stabilize growth? Thank you. Thank you for your question. Indeed, this question has caught the closer attention of the general public in recent months, and the market also has some expectations. Starting from this year, MOFCOM has conscientiously implemented the decisions of the Chinese leadership, introduced a host of measures to stabilize foreign trade and investment to play out their comprehensive effect. And we have first introduced a series of policy measures, including our guideline on stabilizing foreign trade and improving its structure, encouraging foreign companies to establish R&D centers in China, and encourage qualified FTZs and free trade ports to align themselves with international high standards. We also encourage home life spending, consumption of green and smart household appliances, and other issues. Second, we have introduced a series of major events. The first major flagship event is the Year of Consumption Revitalization, and which we carry out a series of activities to promote consumption. in partnership with local governments and industrial associations. Another important event is the Invest in China Year event, in which we conducted a series of events to attract foreign investment. Third, we have held a series of important trade fairs, like the third China International Consumer Products Expo in Hainan, as well as the 133th session of the Canton Fair. The executive meeting of the State Council stressed that we should maximize the comprehensive effects of our policies. MOFCOM will continue to play out the landing of those policies. For other policies, we will also work for their introduction. At the same time, we also conduct research to promote, to prepare for more measures so that these measures will have a synergistic effect. For example, on foreign trade, we will support new energy vehicles in expanding international markets, enhancing processing trade, and facilitating business people in applying for visas, as well as the increase of international flights. We will also try our best to make CRIE Canton Fair and the safeties a success. On foreign investment attraction, we will also introduce more measures to improve our business climate. We will also make a reasonable reduction on the negative list for foreign investment accession. We will continue to hold a roundtable with foreign businesses. At the same time, on investment, we will have a series of promotion events during summer, throughout the year, as well as in autumn. At the same time, we will encourage consumption of automobile, catering, high-quality development of catering sector, as well as the digitalization of our life and services. And we will update you on these new measures through our press conference in MOFCOM as well as other channels. Next question. The gentleman on the first row, please. From China.com. So the Central Economic Work Conference proposed that recovery and expansion of consumption should be given a priority. So what measures have been adopted by MOFCOM in the first half of this year? I'd like to ask Director General Li to take this question. Thank you very much for your interest on consumption. Consumption represents the final demand, and it sustains our economic development. And we will implement decisions to promote consumption. We will introduce policies, hold events, improve our platforms, and protect basic consumption, and work hard to recover and expand consumption. Just now, Vice Minister Guo has given us a very comprehensive briefing, and I'd like to highlight the following. The first is that we have clear priorities and focus on the fundamentals of consumption. So we have discussed this issue with you, and automobile, household appliances, home life, and catering are four major sectors in the consumption sector. We have introduced a series of policies measures. Automobile, we have introduced policies to improve our charging infrastructure and promote consumption of new energy vehicles in rural areas. We have launched initiatives and festivals covering 100 Chinese cities and 1,000 Chinese counties and 10,000 Chinese townships. So for second-hand vehicle, our objective is to make it as smooth as you buy a first-hand vehicle. We have launched a comprehensive information service platform. And in the first half of this year, you can see the encouraging growth in the consumption of both first-hand and second-hand vehicles. And so it is recovering. On household appliances and home life spending, we support green consumption. We have supported e-commerce platforms in promoting such consumption. And the Swamp initiative and promotional events in rural areas increased our sales by 67% and nearly 30% respectively. At the same time, we're also promoting the development of the catering sector.
Secondly, we have held a series of events. Just now, Vice Minister Guo mentioned our two major initiatives this year. First one is the year of consumption revitalization. We ensure that activities are held each season, each month, and each week. For instance, in the first half of this year, we held 4 major thematic activities in spring and the National Consumption Promotion Month. We've also held the 3rd Hainan Expo and the International Silk Expo, as well as other serious activities. Here I'd like to extend my thanks to our friends from the media to expand coverage on those events to let more people know them. We've also encouraged the local authorities to hold various consumption promotion activities based on local characteristics. For instance, the March the 5th shopping festival in Shanghai, the Beijing Tianjin Hebei shopping season, as well as other consumption promotion activities in Chongqing and in Guangxi. Third, we have improved the platforms and conditions for consumption. This year, we have taken to improve 5 international consumption center cities, namely Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, Tianjin, and Chongqing. This year, we have held a second forum on international consumption center cities. At the same time, we have advanced upgrading and renovation of existing pedestrian shopping streets. We identified 12 national demonstration smart shopping circles, and we have established 15-minute community service circles in 80 localities nationwide. According to statistics from the National Bureau of Statistics, in the first half of this year, consumption nationwide registered a nearly 2-digit growth. And fourthly, we are focused on ensuring supply and basic consumption. This is always a priority of our work. We have ensured supply of grain, edible oil, meat, egg, milk, fruits, and vegetables, and improved our circulation distribution system to ensure market supply of daily necessities. In the first half of this year, we released more than 6,200 market monitoring updates. And many localities and businesses pay very close attention to those statistics. And we've also actively responded to earthquakes in Sichuan and Xinjiang and floods in Henan and Guangxi, and ensure basic supply of daily necessities in areas stricken by earthquake and floods. We've also increased stockpiling of pork to ensure price stability. Thank you. The gentleman on the second row. Thank you from Phoenix TV. In recent years, China's government has been increasing FDI attraction. However, in the first half of this year, FDI scale has downsized. What's your comment? Thank you. I'd like to invite Director General Zhu Bing to answer this question. Thank you for your interest in China's foreign investment attraction. This year, MOFCOM has been further implementing the decisions of the CPC Central Committee and the State Council and worked with local governments and other departments to advance our foreign investment work. This has played an important role in building a new development paradigm. In 2022, as global cross-border investment decreased by 12%, China's FDI attraction increased by 6.3%. Pending FDI exceeded 1.2 trillion RMB, or nearly $190 billion, up 8% year-on-year, the second largest in the world. This year, with slow economic recovery and sluggish global cross-border investment, due to multiple factors, global FDI will continue to face downward pressure, as pointed out by UNCTAD. That, compounded by the high base in 2022, resulted in the 2.7% decrease of China's paid-in FDI in the first half of this year. However, the overall size remains stable. We believe that data volatility in the short term does not affect the confidence of foreign investors in China's development prospects. Recently, we have seen many visits of CEOs of multinationals to China to explore China's development environment and seek new opportunities for investment and cooperation. They generally believed that there is still huge potential in the Chinese market, and the Chinese market is not an option but a must-have. They will continue to stay in China and for China, which is evidenced by the 35.7% increase in new FIEs in the first half of this year. We believe that with joint efforts, the foreign investment promotion policies will deliver, our business environment will optimize, and China will continue to be a top destination of FDI. Thank you. Thank you. Next question.
Thank you. Good afternoon. A question from Reuters about the CPTPP, please. China's accession to the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership requires the support of all current members, but some of them may face potential political constraints that prevent them from supporting China's application. How does China plan to overcome current CPTPP members' concerns that their trade relationship with the US, the world's largest economy, could be at risk if China were to join the bloc? Thank you.
请翻译一下。
路透社记者提问：中国加入 CPTPP 需要得到所有当前成员国的支持，但其中几个成员国可能面临潜在的政治限制，阻止他们支持中国的申请。中方计划如何克服当前 CPTPP 成员国的担忧，即如果让中国加入该集团，他们与世界最大经济体的贸易关系可能会面临风险。
好的，感谢您的提问。那么中国呢，确实
Thank you for your question.
推动加入 CPTPP
China has been pushing forward work to join the CPTPP. I'd like to invite Director General Yang Tao to take your question.
好，谢谢你的提问。
Thank you for your question.
中国呢是2021年9月的时候
China made the application to join the CPTPP in September 2021, and it is working to advance the accession process. China has conducted thorough and in-depth assessment, evaluation, and study of all CPTPP provisions and identified necessary legal amendments. So far, China has been engaged in communication and consultation with other CPTPP members in accordance with relevant procedures. China is committed to open, transparent, and mutually beneficial regional free trade arrangements, and to advancing trade and investment liberalization and facilitation. China is ready to maintain communication and discussion with other CPTPP members. Thank you.
好，请继续提问。
Thank you. Next question.
旁边那位外国记者。
Good afternoon, Market News International. In view of weak external demand, it is expected that China's export outlook faces difficulties in the second half of the year. How will the Ministry of Commerce support export enterprises in the second half? Thank you.
请翻译一下。
美国国际市场新闻社记者提问：鉴于外需疲弱，预计下半年中国出口前景将面临困难。下半年商务部将如何支持出口企业？
好的，这是一个关于外贸的问题，我们请辛乾司长。
Thank you. I'd like to invite Director General Li Xingqian to take your question.
好，谢谢您的提问。现在国际市场的
Thank you for your question.
是外贸发展的一个大背景。如果我们拉长
Decreasing demand is the context we're facing in trade growth. If we look in the long term, global trade is returning to the pre-pandemic level. That is to say that during the past 3 years, global trade increased at an annual rate of 9.7%, which is way higher.
就是2010到2019这大概10年间，
than the level
年均的增速，当时的年均
during
增速
the
只有
decade before COVID-19, which was at around 4.7% annually from 2010 to 2019. Therefore, we believe that the 9.7% annual growth over the past 3 years
那展望下半年，
is only transient and
外贸
unsustainable.
确实面临
Looking into the second half of this year,
和难预料的
we believe that we will be facing increasing uncertainties,
经济因素和
instabilities,
非
and
经济因素
unpredictabilities.
相互交织，
Economic and
形势
non-economic
是极为严峻
elements will be
这
compounding
可以从两方面来看
and。challenging.
一方面呢，
For one
全
thing,
球的经贸增长、
global trade and economic growth,
生产、消费、投资
as well as
这
production,
三大需求
consumption,
都处于
and
低迷的状
investment
态。
are still
全球制
sluggish.
造业 PMI 已经连续9个月低于
Global PMI has been
线之
below
下主要的经济
the
体的
prosperous
膨胀
line for 9 months
也
in a
仍然
row.
处在高位，
Major
商
economies
品
are
消
still
费
suffering from
复
high
苏
inflation,
是相对缓慢。
and recovering of goods
另一方
consumption
面
is still slow.
非经济因素的干扰
For
和消息
another, non-economic
部分国家强行推动
disturbances
了
are
脱
rising.
钩、锻炼以及所谓
Certain
的
countries
去风险、
are advancing
人为
the
设置
agenda
障
of
碍
decoupling,
阻碍
severance
正
of
常
supply
的
chains, and the
经贸活动。
so-called de-risking.
企业反映啊，
They've established artificial
个别国
barriers
家
to block
把
normal
贸易
trade
问
and
题政
economic
治化，
exchanges.
导致
According
了
to some
订单和
businesses,
产能的
politicized
向
trade
外转移，
has resulted
损害
in
是
relocation of orders
双
and
方
the
的
production capacities,
经济利益。
which damages the interests of both the
在正视这
suppliers
些困难
and
和挑战的同
buyers.
时呢，我们依然
As
是充
we
满信心的。
face these challenges up
中国
front,
外贸
we
产业链
need to
供应
reaffirm
链
our confidence
有强大的韧性，
in the strong
中国的
resilience
外贸
of
企业
China's industrial
是
and supply
在
chains
国
for
际
foreign
市场
trade,
竞争当中锤炼成长
and that
起
our
来，
foreign businesses
具有内在
have
的创新
withstood
能力。
the test of
最近
the
我们
risks
对
and
重点的
challenges.
外贸行业和企业
According
一直
to
在跟踪调
our
查，
follow-ups and
从中我们注意
surveys
到
in key foreign
有一些积极的
trade
变化。
sectors and businesses, we've noticed some
比如
positive trends.
跨
For
境往来
instance,
在进一
cross-border
步的畅通，
people-to-people
国际
exchanges
航班的数量
have been
也在稳
more
步的恢
have been
复。
easier,
那么
and
新的
the number
外
of
贸订
international
单
flights have been recovering.
这个签订的情况持平的，和增长的企
A
业
larger share
占比
of
在回升。
businesses saw foreign trade
电子信
orders
息
on
这
the
些压力较大的
same
行
level
业，
or even increasing.
他们中间品的进
For
口
sectors
在
such
上
as
扬，
electronics
这也
and
意味着下
information,
半年可能会迎来转机。
they're
此
seeing
外呢，
things
我们国家
turning to the
的
better.
优势的竞争产品，
Besides
电光
some
的新三
competitive
样的
Chinese
产品
products such as
不会
electric
改善
vehicles,
很快
photovoltaic
增长。
products, and
从市
lithium
场
ion
的角度
batteries
看，一带一路国家
have maintained rapid
自贸
growth.
协定的伙伴国，这些多
Cooperation
双
under
边
the
的
Belt and Road
贸易合作
Initiative
也正在
and
释
under
放
free trade
高度增长的
agreements
潜力。
will unleash greater
下
potential.
半年呢，商务部
In the
将
second half,
继续坚持问题导
Ofcom will
向，
continue
会同各地各
to
部门
address those issues
形
in
成
a
政策合力，
problem-oriented
全力推动
manner
外贸的
and work
促进
with
提
local
质，
authorities and
我们有
relevant
三个着力点：
departments to stabilize and improve foreign trade
继续帮助
in
企业
three key areas.
订单
First,
拓
we'll
市场，
continue to help our businesses
要
stabilize
办好进博会、
their
博会
orders and expand
冬奥会
markets.
等
We
一
will
系列的
hold
重要
major
展会，
expositions such
境外
as
参
the
展、
CIIE,
营销
Canton Fair, and
推动
CIFTIS
加快签证的办理和国
and
际
help
航线的
businesses
复航
go
通关。
abroad and
第
promote
二呢，
their
保
businesses.
障产业链供应
We
链
will
稳定，
also accelerate visa
要提升
application
加工贸易
handling
的发展水
and
平，
resumption of international
动态
flights.
调整
Second,
综
we
合
will
保质
ensure
期，提
stability
升
of
产品
industrial
目录，
supply chains.
要
We will
加强
improve processing
贸易
trade,
风险的监测运用，
adjust
帮助企业积极应对
the catalog
不合理
of
的
product
贸易限
maintenance
制措施，
in bonded zones
同
on
时
a dynamic
要更
basis,
加积极主
and we will
动
also step
开放
up
进口。
risk monitoring and
第三是深化
notification.
外贸的创新发展，
Help businesses address
我们要
unreasonable
支
trade
持
restrictions
中国
to
有
expand
竞
their
争力的
export.
优势产品，
Third, we will
持续地
promote innovation-driven development of
指
foreign
导
trade.
跨境电商品牌的培育和标准建设，
We will help
推动贸易
cross-border
单据
e-commerce
数
operators
字化
build
发
their
展和
brands
应用，
and
同时还要
put
分
forward
行业
standards.
举办
We will also
新业态、绿色低碳贸易、自贸
develop
协定
and apply
等相关的培训，
digitized
帮助企业加
trade
强
documents
贸易能力的建设。
and hold training sessions for different sectors to build their capacity. Thank you. Next question. The lady on the second row.
谢谢发言人。21世纪经济报道记者提问。
Thank you.
今年是自贸试验区建设10周年，请问今年上半年，
This year marks the 10th anniversary of the FTZ. So, in the first half of this year, in the implementing the strategy to enhance FTZ, what measures, what steps have been taken by MOFCOM? Thank you. Indeed, this year marks the 10th anniversary of the FTZs, and we have a series of measures and policies. I'd like to give the floor to Director General Yang Tao. Thank you. To build FTZ is an important strategy introduced by the Chinese leadership with Comrade Xi Jinping as a core to promote reform and opening up in the new era. So on the 10th anniversary of the FTZ, MOFCOM will fully implement the decisions made by General Secretary Xi Jinping on the building of FTZ and implement the decisions made by the party's 20th National Congress on further enhancing the FTZs. First, priority will be given to align the FTZs with high standard international trade and economic rules. Recently, we reported to the State Council on a series of measures to enhance the alignment of qualified FTZs and free trade ports with high standard international rules, with the focus on trading goods, trading services, temporary entry of business people, digital trade, business environment, and risk prevention. We also support Shanghai, Guangdong, Tianjin, Fujian, Beijing, these 5 qualified FTZs as well as Hainan Free Trade Port in conducting pilot initiatives so that they will explore pathways to comprehensively deepen reform and expand opening up and provide good examples for China's accession into high standard trade agreements. Second, we will focus on the replication of a series of innovative outcomes institutionally to further release the dividends of reform. And we have proposed to the State Council to issue a guideline to further replicate good practices in the FTZ, and which will be rolled out in other places. Third, guided by our the list for our job in the next 3 years, we will further enhance our efforts. So in the next 3 years, we have identified 164 items of priority. We will provide more and differentiated guidance, and we will support FTZs in conducting reform and making innovations in light of their conditions. So all this has further reinvigorated our FTZs. For the 21 FTZs, they utilized nearly 130 billion yuan of foreign direct investment, up year by year 8.2%. And for the high-tech sector, the paid-in foreign investment grew by 21%. With less than 0.4% of China's territory, the 21 FTZs attracted 18.4% of China's total FDI. In the next step, we will further embrace the decisions of the 20th CPC National Congress, further align ourselves with high standard rules, and we will also enhance market access, promote the integration of our reform measures, and make the best use of FTZs so that they will contribute more to the Chinese modernization. Next question. The journalist on the 4th row, please.
谢谢主持人，是 CNBC 记者提问，我有2个问题。
From CNBC, I have 2 questions.
上半年有多
First,
少外资企
So, how many senior executives of multinational companies visit China, and how many of them come from the United States and Europe? And my second question is, what achievements have been made by the Invest in China year in the first half of this year, and what's your expectation plan for FDI attraction in the second half? Now, I'd like to give floor to Director General Zhu Bin. Thank you for your question. Since the beginning of this year, senior executives of foreign multinational companies visited China and see China's investment environment with their own eyes and explore new business opportunities, showing their strong desire to invest more in China. MOFCOM warmly welcomes foreign investors. Minister Wang Wentao met with more than 20 such senior executives from foreign multinational companies and briefed them about China's new policies and measures attracting and utilizing foreign investment. They also discussed in details how to enhance their cooperation on the basis of consolidating existing cooperation. Recently, we have introduced a roundtable meeting with foreign multinational companies, in addition to our regular meeting channels. And this will help them resolve their concerns and mediate the resolution of difficult issues, so that our services will become more effective and targeted. As far as we know that in the second half of this year, more such senior executives have plans to visit China. We will provide the maximum facilitation for their visit to China, align their development strategies with China's, and conduct negotiations on their investment cooperation. They are welcome to come to make investments in China to share in the benefits of China's broad market. Second question, when it comes to the investor in China year serial events, in order to implement the Chinese leadership's decision to attract more foreign investment, MOFCOM held the Investor in China year for the first time. So these serial events will run throughout the year, covering central, western, as well as eastern China. It will give a comprehensive presentation on business environment in China, as well as its investment opportunities. So far, we have held 14 major events, and which can be put into three categories. The first one is general events. Last March, we held the launching ceremony in Guangzhou. Vice Premier He Lifeng attended the event and delivered the keynote speech. And he told nearly 100 participating foreign multinationals that China remains committed to reform and opening up, which has boosted their confidence. Second, we have a number of events outside Beijing. For example, we have a special promotional event in Guangdong, Chongqing, and Tianjin, and we also have a seminar in Jiangsu. We also have a CCIE to Heilongjiang and Inner Mongolia, as well as Jilin and Yunnan. And we briefed the foreign multinational companies on China's opening policies, and we work particularly hard to attract foreign investment for China's central, western, as well as northeastern region. And the third category is that we have held a series of events in other countries. For example, in Gulf states, in Germany, for example, we have the launching ceremony for Investor in China year German stop event. More than 100 German businesses and organizations attended. And Chinese local authorities worked hard to attract investment. As far as we know, there are more than 2,900 projects under discussions. In the next step, we will continue to make such policies, measures, and events successful. We will create a market-based and international first-rate business environment under the rule of law. We will continue to assist foreign invested businesses and share in dividends of the China market. So next question, the journalist on the third row, please. From the paper. So due to contracting external demand, China's foreign trade has come under pressure. So what's your comment on the trade performance in the first half of this year? And the trade decline notably in May and June. What are the reasons behind? I'd like to invite Director General Li Xingqian to take this question. And thank you for your questions. When it comes to trade performance in this year, indeed, in foreign trade, we have faced tough challenges in external environment. The State Council has introduced a series of policies and measures to stabilize foreign trade and support our exporters or traders. In general, facing the external environment which is tough and complex, we have rise up to the pressure and demonstrate a strong degree of resilience. First, we have stabilized the overall volume of our trade. Our trade volume kept growing. In the first 6 months of this year, China's foreign trade exceeded 20 trillion yuan, up 2.1% year-on-year. Compared with the first half of 2019, before COVID-19, it grew by 36.7%. China remain the largest trader in goods, and its share in the global market kept increasing. So according to the latest statistics from the WTO, in the first quarter, globally, global export and import declined by 3.3% year-on-year. At the same time, China has a market share of 40% globally, and according to our statistics, in the second quarter of this year, the share of Chinese exporters remained stable and slightly increased. So globally speaking, facing the sluggish external demand, China is doing more trade. China's neighbors usually have a double-digit decline in their foreign trade or export. At the same time, for China, we have diverse export markets with a myriad of products and rich business patterns. So we can be successful in hedging the sluggish external demand and downward pressure of some products. Second, we kept improving the quality of trade. In the first 6 months of this year, emerging markets share in our total foreign trade share increased by 1.9 percentage points to 63.6%. So with our FTA partners, our foreign trade grew by 2.4%. For BRI countries, grew by 9.8%, higher than our national average. And when it comes to high quality, high tech, and high added value, they enjoy strong growth of exports. In the first 5 months of this year, new energy, automobile, photovoltaic products, and lithium-ion batteries drove our export growth up by 2.1 percentage points. Business patterns kept innovating. We have rolled out 30 good cases, outstanding cases nationwide. In the first half of this year, our exports through cross-border commerce increased by nearly 20%. That is a quite strong momentum. And the third, our services have served our national economy. Foreign trade continue to steer our economy to a better direction. And it has directly and indirectly created 190 million people. And last year, we revoked the requirement on registration and filing as foreign trade operators. So in the first 6 months of this year, with our exporters who actually exported things increased by 39,000. At the same time, we are also increased import of crude oil, grain, and other energy and resource products to meet domestic need. At the same time, in opening up, we worked for the entry into force of RCEP to all the 15 members, which has further strengthened the interaction between domestic and international flows. So next question is about our decline in exports in the last 2 months. I think it is a good indication of sluggish global demand. To be more specific, I think such decline has 4 reasons. The first one is that overall external demand remains soft and sluggish. Major developed markets still continue to pursue a high inflationary policy. Some emerging markets suffered from wide fluctuations in their exchange rate, with inadequate foreign exchange reserves, which has curbed their export demand, import demand.
Second, electronics and IT sectors are in a downward cycle. As you may know, these 2 sectors are China's competitive exporters. However, we are witnessing a low in the 4-year cycle of these 2 sectors. As a result, computer, integrated circuits, mobile phones suffered a double-digit decline in their export, and these sectors account for more than 30% of China's total exports. Third, the base of the same period last year was significantly higher. In May to June last year, the monthly export amounted to 3.58 trillion yuan, which was 43 million yuan higher than the average of the first 4 months last year. Fourth, pricing are going down. The price of international commodities has been going down, and the import prices declined by 4.5% and 8.5% in May and June, respectively. And export prices are also turning negative compared with May. It is worth attention that despite a year-on-year decrease in May and June, we saw month-on-month increase over these 2 months, and goods and container throughputs are also increasing. Therefore, we are confident in the prospects of foreign trade in the second half of this year. Thank you. Next question. Thank you. From Economy Daily. Could you please talk about the new progress and highlights of Belt and Road cooperation in the first half of this year, and what are the next steps? Thank you, and I would like to take your question. In the first half of this year, MOFCOM has conscientiously implemented the important instructions of General Secretary Xi Jinping on Belt and Road cooperation, as well as the decisions of the 20th Party National Congress. We worked with relevant authorities to advance Belt and Road trade and economic cooperation with new progress made. First, we have reinforced the foundation for trade and investment cooperation. In terms of trade, we've seen steady growth in scale and optimizing structure. In the first half of this year, China's trading goods with Belt and Road partners registered 6.89 trillion yuan, up 9.8% year-on-year, which was 7.7 percentage points higher than the overall trade in goods growth. Exports to Belt and Road partners of new energy vehicles, machine tools, and home appliances increased by 163.3%, 49.7%, and 26.2% respectively. Import of agricultural products and chemical fertilizers from Belt and Road partners increased by 17.9% and 71.7% respectively. In terms of investment, two-way investment maintained rapid growth. In the first half, China's non-financial direct investment in Belt and Road partners increased by 23% to 80.17 trillion yuan, and FDI from Belt and Road partners increased by 23.7% to 55.95 billion yuan. Second, we have deepened connectivity. We performed engineering contracts worth 277.72 billion yuan in Belt and Road partners. The Port Sihanouk Economic Zone and China-Laos Railway have all been put into operation. The international new land-sea trade corridor built with Singapore has seen new progress. China has also been building demonstration parks with Southeast Asian countries under the two-country twin park arrangements. And we've also advanced connectivity of rules and standards. We saw the entry into force of ASEP to all of its 15 parties, and we have advanced negotiation on version 3.0 on China-ASEAN FTA and signed a free trade agreement with Ecuador. We've also deepened cooperation with the Belt and Road partners through small yet beautiful projects and the 9 programs between China and Africa. Third, we have improved our institutions and platforms. We established smooth trade working groups with 2 countries and investment cooperation working groups with 5 countries. We've also expanded cooperation in emerging sectors such as green development, digital economy, blue economy, e-commerce, and trading services. We've also held successfully the 3rd China CEC Expo and the 3rd China-Africa Trade and Economic Expo. In the next step, MOFCOM will continue to follow the instructions of the CPC Central Committee and the State Council to deepen trade and economic practical cooperation with Belt and Road partners and make new contribution to Belt and Road cooperation. Thank you. Next question. So, the last 2 questions. The first one from the journalist on the first row. Thank you. From Macau Monthly. Recently, UNCTAD released a report to analyze global cross-border investment this year. What is MOFCOM's comment on foreign investment attraction in the second half of this year, and what are the next step considerations? Thank you. On your question about foreign investment, I'd like to turn this question to Director General Zhu Bing. Thank you for your question. Like you said, UNCTAD released a report saying that in 2022, global FDI decreased by 12% and expected huge downward pressure in 2023. A declining global cross-border investment and increased competition in investment attraction poses challenges for China in this year. However, we still need to be aware of the strong resilience, huge potential, and long-term prospects of China's economy. China has an open, massive market, which represents great opportunities, and we have a complete industrial system, complete infrastructure, rich human resources, and improving business environment. Our focus in the second half of this year are in the following areas. First, we will improve our opening up. We will reasonably shorten the negative list for foreign investment access and remove or relax foreign investment restrictions. We will continue to deepen the development of comprehensive demonstration zones for openness in the service sector and align ourselves with high-standard rules, regulations, management, and standards. We will revise regulations on foreign strategic investment in listed companies to relax restrictions in this regard. Second, we will intensify policy support. This year, MOFCOM has rolled out policies on foreign invested R&D centers and investment attraction in manufacturing, as well as encouraged catalogs. As a result, foreign investment in high-tech manufacturing increased by 28.8% in the first half of this year. With these existing policies, we will continue to focus on key concerns of foreign investors, such as fair competition, investment facilitation, and safeguards for factors of production. We will roll out new policies to improve the investment environment to ensure their implementation. Third, we'll continue to hold thematic events on Invest in China year. In the first half, we held 14 such events to promote China's business environment and policies and help multinationals better understand China and invest in China. In the second half, we will hold 9 key events, including the thematic forum during CIFIT and a promotion event for the services sector during CIFTIS, the thematic promotion event during Expo Central China, and Invest in China Year Summit during CIIE to facilitate matchmaking and attraction of foreign investor projects. Fourth, we will improve our services. This year, we have leveraged the special task force for key foreign investor projects, stepped up regular communication with FIEs and foreign chambers of commerce, and upgraded the roundtable with FIEs. Recently, Minister Wang Wentao of Commerce have held roundtables with foreign invested pharmaceutical companies and Japanese invested companies. In the next step, we will continue to leverage those roundtables as important platforms for communication, service, and response to difficulties of foreign investment enterprises. FIEs are welcome to raise any of their issues encountered in their daily operations to us. Thank you. Thank you. From yicai.com. Statistics show that in the first half of this year, consumption market recovered steadily. However, the recovery of consumption in commodities such as home and household appliances are still behind expectation. What are the next step measures to boost consumption? Thank you for your question. People are interested in in what policies will be rolled out to boost consumption and maintain the momentum of consumption recovery. At a recent meeting of the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee, recovery and expansion of needs and demands is a key for economic recovery. In the second half, we will work with relevant authorities to implement the policies in the following 4 areas. First, we will optimize the business and the consumption environment. Just now, we have introduced to you some of the policies we have rolled out. In the next step, we will focus on implementation of these policies. For instance, on home consumption, yesterday we held a briefing on relevant policies, which these policy covers home appliances, furniture, household services, etc. In the next step, we will focus on business associations, furniture outlets, top businesses, home renovation businesses, and e-commerce platforms. And on automobile consumption, we have introduced policies to reinvigorate automobile consumption, and we are working to implement these policies to stabilize automobile consumption. In terms of the growing sales of new energy vehicles, we need to address people's concerns about mileage and charging facilities. And the MOFCOM is working with relevant authorities to expand charging facilities. And MOFCOM is in charge of the administration of fueling stations, gas stations, and shopping centers. So in the next step, MOFCOM will promote the installation of charging facilities in qualified areas and places, like I mentioned. We will also enrich our policy toolbox and roll out relevant policies as appropriate. Second, we will focus on consumption promotion activities. In order to promote consumption, we need to hold successful consumption promotion activities. So as we are seeing the second half of the year of consumption reinvigoration, we need to motivate parties involved and stakeholders. On July the 2nd, we launched the summer shopping season in Chongqing. And in September, we will hold the autumn shopping season, followed by the CIFTIS and CIE. We will also incentivize local authorities to hold successful consumption promotion activities and increase their influence. Third, we will improve conditions for consumption and improve the commercial system, which is key to convenient shopping experience. We will work in both urban and rural areas. In the urban areas, we will build international consumption center cities and pedestrian shopping streets. We will also build smart shops and 15-minute community service circles. As for the rural areas,
and we will also cultivate a group of county economies that lead the world, and we will also build new types of convenience stores in rural areas. So we'll work hard in both urban and rural areas. And the fourth, we will innovate consumption scenarios in order to foster consumption hotspots. We have seen new consumption hotspots coming up one after another. We've seen integration of different business patterns. And you can see that boundaries have become blurring between different business patterns like shopping malls, department stores, and there are also cross-sectoral integration. For example, business, tourism, cultural services, and sports have become more integrated. You can feel this in your daily life. So we will build more immersive, experience-based, and interactive consumption scenarios. We also support offline and online integration, as well as live broadcasting on e-commerce platform. We also support e-commerce platforms in expanding into offline operations. And at the same time, we also believe that bricks and mortar stores will also stage a comeback in promoting consumption. So I will stop here. Thank you. Thank you, Vice Minister Guo and our Director Generals. This comes to the end of our press conference. Thank you very much for your participation. Goodbye.